Pulp, don't come in here crying. You guys had a good tournament. Only one team can win it. Doesn't mean you had a bad tournament. I'm assuming that's why you're crying. I shouldn't make assumptions. Good morning, Raichu. Good morning, Valorock. Low Ink is lots of fun. It is. Low Ink is a blast. That's why everyone wants to play in it. You woke up right on time, melatonin. Work won't stop you from watching the podcast. Well, I get people watching me during their classes when school's in session. Now I got people watching me during their work sections. That's awesome. The world can only get better because of me. During bingo sessions in 40 years. In 40 years, my audience is going to be 45. What are you talking about? It'd be going through midlife crisis at that time. I remember the incident back in March of 2021. Back when your grandpoppies were playing in Low Ink. Hello, Sir Skit. Sir Skit, the biggest fan of Low Ink. Low Ink's biggest VIP fan. Sponsored by Foot Locker. Foot Locker does need to get into the esports arena. Who can name the band that this song is... Name the band that plays this song. The in-game band. You wonder what I'm looking at? I'm literally writing the Popcast right now. I'm literally finishing up writing this thing. I got 5 minutes to finish this. That's what I'm doing. I had a fun night last night. And didn't stay up too night. Chirpy Chirps is correct. Jess did not write this song. No, it is the Chirpy Chirps. Somebody give Melatonin a prize of some sort. Chirpy Chirp stole it from you. Don't be slandering the Chirpy Chirps. If we called tournaments like NFL refs did, tournaments would be a lot slower. We'd have to pause the game after every match and do a complete booth review and go to a commercial break, and it'd just be... If this was like the NBA playoffs, this would be even worse, where we have to pause. Everything that happens in the 2 minutes needs to go to a booth review where they look at like some frickin' Walmart monitor. Did it touch his hand when it went out of bounds right there? Let's spend 10 minutes trying to zoom in and figure this out. Those of you who watch the NBA know what I'm talking about, and you know I'm right. Tamp. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you're running to Walmart to buy a LAN cable before the next low ink, debating if soup is actually just liquid food, suggesting that the winner of Low Ink should be allowed to rub my head. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Got the referee shirt on today in honor of the first Low Ink that happened with me being one of the head TOs. And of course, to commemorate my first head TO'd Low Ink, this nonsense happens. Clearly not my fault. It is Magic 8-Ball's fault if we were going to point the finger at anybody. We're going to talk about that, obviously, at some point today. First, some quick news. A tournament that is going to be coming up that would interest the average listener of the podcast. I say average because this podcast is now starting to expand to bring in more of a wider audience outside of just the low level. But if I were to cover every single tournament that's going on a weekly basis, that would be the entire episode of the Popcast, because as you're going to see in the weekend recap I'm about to do, there are way too many tournaments going on right now. I think this was the perfect week for Echo to drop that document or that he made about the oversaturation of tournaments, because if you look at what happened this past weekend, good golly, Miss Molly, we got a lot of tournaments going on in a small frame of time. But more importantly, Little Squid League, I believe number 13, is happening not this upcoming Saturday, but the Saturday afterwards, July the 10th. I believe this is a Div 6 and below tournament. However, don't quote me if I'm wrong here, but I believe some of the better Div 6 teams are banned, but they're going to let some of the bad Div 5 teams in if there's like an exemption request, which is smart. I mean, I feel like we kind of, with low ink, we kind of had to draw that line of like, if you're 4, you're gone. If you're 5, you're fine to an extent. Little Squid League's doing more of this. Hey, we understand if you did bad in Div 5 that you're probably not actually Div 5 and you're allowed to play. And if you did really good Div 6, you're probably not actually Div 6 and you shouldn't be allowed to play. With low ink, the reason why we don't do that is because we gave Div 4 2 more months. Like, we gave 2 months for Div 4 to weed themselves out. And if there was nothing for Div 4 to do, we probably would have looked more into like, okay, these bad Div 4 teams we can let back in. But for the most part, with the thought that SAC is going to be coming around at some point, there's plenty of things for Div 4 teams to do that are not beating up on Div 5 teams in low ink. So that's my stance on that. But sign up for Little Squid League. 18 teams already signed up. I would be surprised if this isn't the biggest Little Squid League tournament they've ever had. And we cover those things here on the Popcast. Someone asked me to do a preview. I'm not going to do a full, complete preview of Little Squid League. I know Price has done some in the past on his channel. So be looking out for something like that. I do cover it. I'm just not going to do a full-blown preview. Those are just for the monster tournaments like low ink, which is one of the main reasons why you guys are in chat right now. It's because of that low ink tournament. Speaking of which, that's what we're doing today. We got a lot to get through today, and hopefully we can get through all of it before I need to run and go to work. But we are going to be recapping low ink. Duh. That you knew it. You knew it. You knew we were going to be doing this. So why am I even telling you about this? But more specifically, after we're done recapping everything from Swiss to Gamma, Beta, and Alpha, and of course Grand Finals, we are going to have a conversation with one of the players that won this low ink from the Deep Fried Octolings, and that is Kalana, the Charger / Squeeze, the person who's using Charger and then switched to Squeezer for Clam Blitz. One of the few players who didn't have connection issues over the weekend. We're going to be chatting with them. There's a lot of people going on Twitter being like, oh, I don't know the Deep Fried Octolings earned this one, or they probably don't feel completely whole about winning this. Well, let's ask them. Instead of speaking for them, let's get direct quotes from them and see how they feel about this past tournament that they won. They did win, by the way. But first, we got about 2 gazillion tournaments to recap that also happened this weekend. So let's recap the weekend. Let's get through this. Time me. First off, SOS happened on Wednesday. Gosh, that seems like forever from going for now. The team that won, what is it? The Great Hammerhead? No, Great White's the platinum bracket, basically. The team that won this one, BVSL, which is just an acronym for the first letter of all the teams that were on, all the players that were on this team. Barry, Voice, Samikado, and Luco. They beat the Krakens 4-3 and was probably a very epic grand finals for that SOS tournament. The team that finished in third place was, oh gosh, my handwriting is already failing me. Revenant, I believe. This was basically just it looked like a reincarnation of Bad, just by looking at the players that were on that roster. So I don't know what was up with that. That was a name like Revenant doesn't sound like a project. That sounds like an actual legit team name. So until I see otherwise, I'm just going to assume it's an actual legit team. In Hammerhead, Tukey won Hammerhead bracket again. This time, though, instead of beating Rising Wave, they swept Luau of all teams. Okay. Now, Luau won SOS a couple of weeks ago, but that was a little bit of there weren't the same strong teams that we saw this past SOS that were in that one. Not to discredit Luau's win by any stretch of the imagination, but as you see Luau losing to Tukey, that's not to discredit Luau. That's to say, okay, Tukey pretty strong here. Hopefully these guys can get out of Hammerhead because they've been in there 2 weeks in a row and have won it twice in a row. Paradise won Mako bracket over twice, and Vertex won Lantern bracket over a Geek Squids Inc. Illuminati pickup team. In total, 35 teams signed up for this SOS. We talked about a saturation of tournaments leads to a smaller number of teams signing up for each tournament. SOS is getting better and stronger and more dangerous each time they run this tournament. 35 is not a record. The record, I believe, for SOS is 39 back in SOS 15. But for a tournament that has no prize, 35 teams on a Wednesday night, that's a healthy number of teams. Attaboy, SOS. King of the Castle was won by Cook Island Splatoon over Sanctum. If you remember, Sanctum is the Dynasty Dragon Wave team, who appears to be getting a lot better every time we see them play in tournaments outside of what they did back in March of Low Inc. The Dragons looking really strong. I don't know how much more we're going to talk about them on the Popcast, because they're clearly too good for low-level stuff. I don't know if they'll be allowed in SAC or not, but good to see Sanctum get second place there. Cook's Island Splatoon take first. A2P, Assault to Pepper, taking third place in this European tournament. A2P is not a European team, but good to see them play in tournaments nonetheless. Special shout out, Midway. This was arguably the more exciting tournament for me personally outside of Low Inc. that happened on Sunday. This was the grand finals, if you know, the SAC finals. The top 8 teams from that season played out in a double elimination bracket. Same thing here with Midway. Universal ended up winning this one 4-3 over Micklin Heroes, beating them in a first bracket. Didn't need to have a bracket reset thrown their way to close this one out. So Universal wins the entire Midway season. Micklin taking second place. Carnage Gaming taking third place here. Only 8 teams played in this tournament. Only 7 actually checked in and signed up. One team dropped like the day of. And for a TO, this is basically an invitational, and running an invitational, having a team drop the day of is probably beyond frustrating. I get it. Not going to throw shade at the team that dropped. I understand things happen, but it's a team that is known for being boys of the sea. Moving right along, the Midpoint Draft Cup happened on Sunday as well. Did everybody and their mom play a tournament on Sunday? Oh, I forgot to do the 4v4 Sundays on here. Well, too many tournaments. We'll forget it. Regardless, the Midpoint Draft Cup. 3 pickup team names we're going to roll with here for the worst pickup team names in this tournament. There were only 12 team names to go with. How about the Purple Growlmons? I think this is a Digimon. I googled it and it looked like a Digimon. Back in my day, a Digimon was just that little orange dinosaur guy. I believe it was Agumon, and then he evolved to a Greymon, which made no sense. He didn't look gray at all. He looked just orange. Why didn't they just call him Orangemon? I have no idea. Regardless, Purple Growlmons. Okay, that's where we're at with Digimon now. 3 NA, 1 EU. Bingo. And the team that ended up winning this tournament, not with the worst pickup team name, but a notable one, the Vegans. Congratulations, the Vegans, for winning this group into single elimination tournament. That's odd. Groups in the single elim. Well, how can this tournament last 12 hours if it's that kind of format? Interesting. Midpoint would come up with that. Squids out of the water, number 3. We're still going here, bro. Bape beat Chewits Mafia 4-2. 11 teams registered for this one, but 5 didn't check in for some oddball reason. Okay. So 6 teams played in Squids out of the water. I believe this one was at the same time as King of the Castle. Couldn't we just have the winner of King of the Castle play Squids out of the water? Like, why does this need to happen? I have no idea. Last but certainly not least, Aquatic Cup, sponsored by Dreamhack Community Clash. with a $200 prize pool divvied out among the top 3 teams. And who were the top 3 teams in this tournament? Number 1, Blackpink. Number 2, Sub-Zero. Number 3, Good Morning. And just to throw 4th place going out to Kraken, the team that finished in 2nd place in SOS back on Wednesday. Who are these teams that I'm reading out here? Good Morning. The players made up of this team was Omega. No, not the Omega. That's not that Omega. The high-level, top-level Omega, I guess you could say. Shadow Wind, Lux, Keen, and Soldier. I believe Good Morning is an actual team. That is a name that sounds like a project or a pickup, but no, I believe I've seen some Twitter posts that this is an actual new legit team. So they finished in 3rd place in this tournament. Sub-Zero is made up of Leafy or Leafy, Ricky, Tara, and Kay. And Blackpink is basically FT Win minus Shaq, and then a bunch of other guys, I think, from Starburst or Climb, where whatever team those guys are on this month. But Blackpink, basically the team that signs up for every tournament that has a prize pool that can be won. Say, oh, hey, I can win $20 by doing this? Let's sign me up. Let me do that. And then if it doesn't have that, they don't sign up. Understandable. When you're that good, and there's no sense in winning a tournament that doesn't give you anything other than pride and glory. I think they got enough of that stuff. Last, I forgot to cover 4v4 Sundays. Look, of all the tournaments that happened this past weekend, I think I'm allowed to miss 1 or 2 somewhere along the lines. Congratulations to whoever won 4v4 Sundays. And that's all the crap that happened this weekend. The good news is a lot of people watched Splatoon this weekend on Twitch. I think that's a dub. I didn't see what the peak was on Twitch for the number of people watching it. But I know while Low Ink was going on, dude was streaming. He had about 200 plus. Kiver was streaming. He had about 200 plus. We had about 200 plus. Midpoint, I think, had streams going on. I don't know if there was an official 4v4 Sunday stream or whatever, but still. A lot of people watching Splatoon yesterday. That's awesome. And that was your weekend recap. Sponsored by Toys R Us. Before you had to get the runaround from people at GameStop, you could buy video games at Toys R Us. I don't think you can do that anymore because they went bankrupt because everybody would just go to Toys R Us to look at toys and not actually buy them. So thank you, Toys R Us, for sponsoring today's episode of the weekend recap. Hoi. Would that take me 10 minutes? All right, shift gears. We're going back to Low Ink. Let's get this out of the way. Let's start with talking about grand finals of this past Low Ink. There's this movie, Troy, which covers the battle, I believe the Spartans versus the Trojans. There's a scene in the movie Troy where Achilles is fighting for the Spartans, I believe, but he's not fighting with the mindset of, oh, I want to win this war for Sparta. I'm fighting with it to just get glory, to just have like a big name, just so people be like, wow, Achilles really kicked a lot of butt when that dude fought in that war. That's what he's fighting for. He's fighting for glory. So he challenges Hector, who's the Prince of Troy and is their greatest warrior and seems to be the only person in the movie who has common sense and is just surrounded by idiots and ends up dying because of other people's stupidity. Anyways, Achilles fighting Troy, 1v1, sword battle. And Achilles, or Hector, at one point in the fight, Hector's like clearly losing the fight and Achilles is just like trolling him to some extent. At one point, Hector trips over a rock and falls down on the ground. And Achilles is standing over him and could easily just end it right there. And Achilles says, "Stand up, Prince. I'm not letting a rock steal my glory." He wants to kill Hector straight up, without any hindrances or any like asterisks or anything like that. And he does. Hector stands up, ultimately loses the battle, pretty single-handedly and dies. And Achilles claims his glory. What we saw this past Sunday, the deep-fried Octolings are Achilles. The difference here, though, is that when they're fighting Hector, Hector trips on the rock, but instead of just falling down and getting back up, Hector lands on his head and instantly dies right there. And we're all just kind of looking down and be like, that's it? Did you just tripped over a rock and died, and that's how this is going to end? And Achilles is just standing there saying, wait. Where's my glory here? Where's the thrill of victory I'm supposed to be having? And as we're all standing in Troy, looking down at this battle happening, and we see the deep-fried Octolings on the tower at Inkblot Art Academy with a tripped Sirius team looking back up at them, we're all just sitting there saying, what the hell just happened? This is how the tournament is going to end? Okay. Achilles got carried by his ball. If you don't understand the context that I'm trying to symbolize here, let me point this out. Here, let me explain what happened. In grand finals of this low ink, we had four games decided by a disconnect. Not including the two that the Deep Fried Octolings had in losers finals leading up to grand finals that ultimately knocked their Nautilus player Broke out of the tournament. After those two DCs, they benched Broke and brought in their sub Danny Boy to fill out the tournament all the way up until the very end of it, until Broke came back in. So this tournament grand finals was unfortunately plagued by disconnecting issues. And it came at the worst time. We've had DC issues before, though. Not obviously in other tournaments, but in low ink specifically, we've definitely had DC issues here. In the March, the incident, you don't remember the DC issues that were in the March tournament for a couple of reasons. One, it was overshadowed by what created that grand finals anyways. But two, is because the DCs didn't outright affect the final outcome of the tournament. They didn't. Every DC that happened in the Twisted Time versus Red Sun, both sets, the bracket set, reset, and the actual set, none of those DCs affected the final score because they all happened in a period to where the games could be replayed. And both teams used both their replays, because once the bracket reset, you got your replays back. Both teams used all their replays, but none of the games either completely count. I think there was once on a Tower Control Mako Mart game where a team DC'd and they ended up losing. But it was they had such a huge deficit anyways that the DC just prevented them from having an epic comeback. They were going to lose that match anyways, in theory, if that game had continued, regardless of the bracket of the DC that they had. So yeah, there were a ton of disconnects in that flustercluck of a tournament in the March tournament. But it didn't affect the outright final score because all the replays were still allowed. The four DCs that we had in this month's tournament of low ink, all of them affected the final outcome. There were no replays because all of the disconnects happened under 2 minutes. And the DC rules that low ink has are very generous. Some other tournaments are 2.5 minutes or 50 points or more scored. So that's at 50% of both things. Low ink, it's more 2 minutes and I believe 30 points remaining. So low inks is very generous. You can go deep into a game and still have a replay count. None of these disconnects happened with a replay that could be eligible to happen. So all four of them counted. It was always all four of the DCs were from teams that were winning the current game. The winner was always the one that DC. We never had a team that was losing disconnect in grand finals. It was always the winning team, all four times. And the lead changed in 3 of those 4. There was one disconnect that Sirius had on Clam Blitz at the Canal, but they had such a monstrous lead that they could just bleed out the clock, and they barely held on to that win 3v4, but they won because they built up such a monstrous lead over the 4 minutes that they had before the disconnect happened. But in the other three, the winning team had the lead, the disconnect happened, and the losing team with more players came back and won that game and took the win without a replay. 4 times that happened in a grand finals. And it happened in the worst possible time. They all came in the last 2 games of each bracket. The first bracket reset, the DC happened in game 6 and game 7. In the second bracket reset, or in the actual bracket reset, it happened in game 5 and the game 6, the final game of the tournament. This could not have been happening at the worst time for these. It's so the circumstances for each disconnect had to be so specific that you can't judge it by anything other than by saying this was just unlucky that all of these things happened at the specific time that they did. The highlight of the disconnects obviously goes to game 6, which was dominated by Sirius until the Deep Fried Octolings made a deep push. And it looked like they had a chance to get the lead back anyways, but then the final DC happened, and there was just nothing. That was all she wrote at that point. And it was Danush that DC'd, who had 0 connection issues all day long. It was somebody new almost every time that was disconnected. It wasn't just one person plaguing this tournament. It was multiple people on both sides, which is what made that so crazy. But leading up to that, and this is where we get to our moment of Achilles standing up on the tower, just kind of looking around being like, this is it. This is the glory I wanted. The Deep Fried Octolings been playing. This was their 1-year anniversary of their first low ink, and they finally win it. And they're just standing there on the tower, and it's like, this isn't what I was expecting. And understandably so. Life is full of what if moments, right? What if I take this job? What if I'd gone back and taken that job? Where would I have been now? It's so easy to look back at those things and say, oh, my life would have been better if I had done this thing instead of that thing. It's easy to say that, but all these what if thoughts that you have in your head are never based in reality, because reality is where we are right now. You can't say, oh, well, if I had done this, then my final destination wouldn't be over here instead of over here, because you're completely cutting out everything that happens on that path between point A and point B. You don't know what happens on that path that derails you to some other alternate reality. So what ifs are fine to think about, but to sit here and say that a what if would lead to a certain situation, you have no idea, and you will never know what the actual situation there is. What if there were no DCs? Who knows? You can't outright say that if there were no disconnects, that Sirius would have won this tournament. You can't say that. That makes no sense. Let's look at the 3 DCs that changed the result of a score. First off, Game 7 of the first bracket. When the DC happened, the score was 64-63 remaining on Rainmaker Shipyard, a 1-point lead for Sirius with 1:15 left on the clock. That's a toss-up. That's anybody's game at that point. Sirius technically in the lead by 1 point, but do you seriously think they're going to win 64-63? Those are the points remaining in a Rainmaker game. You have no idea who's going to win that one. Game 5 of the bracket reset, 48-37 remaining. Both teams with about 25 penalty points each on Splat Zone's Humpback. Roughly just less than 2 minutes left to go. That was the Deep Fried Octolings in the lead when Danny Boy DC'd. Are you telling me that if Danny Boy didn't DC, that the Deep Fried Octolings wouldn't hold on and win that game? You have no idea, because reality, it did. The DC happened, and we'll never know what would actually happen in that kind of situation. Game 6, the final game, the game-ending tournament, or the tournament-ending game. 25-45 remaining. This one a little bit more, a wider gap. with about 45 seconds left to go, with Sirius with the lead. However, there are no checkpoints left standing between the Deep Fried Octolings getting the lead back from Sirius. And in the moment of the game, the Deep Fried Octolings have full momentum. The tower is on the Sirius side of the Art Academy, and they are riding it. And the whole side of the map where the tower needs to be is the Deep Fried Octolings color. So yeah, is Sirius still in the advantage there? Yeah, the defender's advantage. You got to think they are the team that would be the favorite to win out that situation. But to say that the Deep Fried Octolings in a 4v4 with tower control being their best mode and already getting a couple of overtime wins in tower control against the Sirius team anyways, that they wouldn't win that outright, you can't say that. So can you say in all three of these games, they were toss-ups before the DC? They were. It was completely undecided. There might have been a favorite, but it's completely undecided who would actually win those games. Can you say each team lost because of the DC? Yes. Yes, the disconnects clearly played a factor in each team losing their respective games. Can you say they would have won without the disconnect? No. You don't know for sure, and you'll never know, because we are in the reality that we currently live in. And what happened is what happened. What if, though? Well, if you want to play the what if game, here is the what if Sirius needs to ask themselves. And I haven't seen any Sirius players complain, and they have no right to complain. Even if they were, it's their internet that was the fault. But if I was Sirius and I'm looking back at this set, I'm saying, what if we didn't put ourselves in a 3-0 hole 2 sets in a row? In both sets of grand finals, the Deep Fried Octolings won the first 3 games without any DC issues. Straight up. If you're serious, you got to be saying, how did we put ourselves in this situation to where every time we DC, we're shooting ourselves in the foot to the point to where we could be eliminated from the tournament? You can't lose the first 3 games of each bracket straight up and expect to win a tournament, regardless of a DC. You can't do that. And that had nothing to do with any of the disconnects. We'll remember the disconnects, but you won't remember that. You won't remember the Deep Fried Octolings dominating each bracket from the jump for the first 3 games. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. And as July is coming around, maybe we will have a Christmas in July. Who knows? But look, I don't want the tournament to end that way. JPEG didn't want the tournament to end that way. The Deep Fried Octolings definitely didn't want to win the tournament that way. But unlike Achilles, the Deep Fried Octolings did get robbed of their glory, but they didn't get robbed of their immortality. The record book will always say the winner of the June 2021 Low Ink was the last team standing. The Deep Fried Octolings, the last team standing. Showing up is half the battle, and when Sirius needed to show up the most, they just flat out didn't, and the Deep Fried Octolings did. High Ink will come around at some point. The Deep Fried Octolings will be there because they earned it, or I guess I should say if it does come around back at some point. Never apologize for winning. And if you're the Deep Fried Octolings, they don't owe anybody an apology, especially for what they did. How dominant they were over the course of the weekend. Before we look into Swiss and Sunday, and then get to the interview with the Deep Fried Octolings, I do want to point out my top 10, because my top 10 was pretty dope. Two of the teams in my top 10 dropped before the tournament started, which left only 8 teams. Guess what? All 8 teams made alpha brackets. That's the best I've personally ever done. Not that this is about me or anything, but I always say I start off Monday episodes with an apology if I feel like one is warranted. Nope. Got it all right, bro. I had the Fugatu Angels at number 1, the Deep Fried Octolings at number 3. Should have switched those two because the Angels finished 3rd and Deep Fried Octolings finished 1st. So if you want an apology there, my bad. The team that finished 2nd, Sirius, I actually had it 4. It doesn't surprise me. Nothing that happened in this low ink surprised me. Well, the results of this low ink doesn't surprise me. It was one of the more straightforward low inks we had. I don't know what played into that. Maybe it's the factor that all of Div 4 is gone and all these teams know that they're remotely safe. I'm not sitting here saying that all these teams are going to be allowed back in next month, but you got to get the sense that they played like this isn't a mom spaghetti tournament where if we don't win it, we're gone forever. Just so without that kind of pressure, probably allowed teams to play how they naturally do play, and which is why more consistent teams made Alpha Bracket this month than what we've seen in the past. That would just be my guess as to why things ended up the way they did after Saturday. Shout out to the low-level ranking who actually predicted the correct winner. The Deep Fried Octolings. They had them at number 1, and they won. So there you go. I now have predicted one correct winner, and the lower-level rankings that have only done one ranking ever has predicted the correct winner as well. So I'm batting like 0.100, and the lower-level ranking Twitter's batting 100 themselves. Yeesh. The pop gun blessing. Let's look at what happened on Saturday. We'll trickle back to the Deep Fried Octolings at some point. But hey, a lot of you guys played in low ink as well. Let's look at some of the stuff you guys did. Looking at Swiss, some matches of note. First off, I want to give a shout out to the Ink Strike Inklings who got a 2-1 win over Yosemite. This was basically the alpha play in game. Yosemite, I said, I don't know how good they actually are because they ripped apart Gamma Bracket last month, but I felt like they were better than that. And they did qualify for beta this time around. They had to drop and they didn't play in beta. But Ink Strike Inklings, this was a statement win for them. They lose it, they go back. They lose it, they probably go back down to beta. I don't think they fall down to gamma. But they win it and they get into alpha bracket, which is where I said I think they're going to start consistently being and getting a win like this in round 6. Very notable. It's a nice win for Ink Strike Inklings. Shiver Me Inklings in round 1 got a 2-1 win over the Fugatsu Angels. And this was the first, oh, okay, this is who you guys are now. I see you now. I had them at number 10 in my top 10 list. And I thought having the Deep Fried or Shiver Me Inklings at number 10, I thought that might be a little controversial. I felt like, why are you putting that team's never made alpha bracket? Why would you put them in there? Well, I just had a feeling that with what they've done recently, that they were going to be doing really good in this low ink. In round 1, they played the team I had at number 1, Fugatsu Angels. A lot of other people had the Angels at number 1, and they straight up beat them 2-1. And that was like, oh, okay, I see the Pirates now. Those guys are legit. The Inkcraft Cult got a 2-1 win over Starfall. This one was on stream, and it was a great set to have on stream. I put it on stream because I felt like these were two teams that were evenly skilled with each other. Honestly, I felt like Starfall would be the team that would win, but Inkcraft Cult proved, hey, we're the more experienced team. We've been around a little bit longer. We might be one of the better teams playing in Little Squid League. This upcoming tournament, if they're even allowed. I don't know who's allowed or not to play in that one, but Inkcraft Cult getting a nice win over Starfall on stream on Saturday, 2-1. Citrus beat the Deep Fried Octolings 2-1. This was the only loss for the Deep Fried Octolings across the entire weekend, outside of when they lost to Sirius in winners finals before they ended up coming back and beat them. The Deep Fried Octolings and the Oranges here are it's an exciting matchup to see. Nobody in Group B got a win, or nobody in Group B went undefeated. In fact, Shiver Me Inklings was the only team to go undefeated on Saturday. But it was a nice win for the Oranges on Saturday, at least. Access Denied got a 2-1 win over Ink Luminatis. This is interesting because Access Denied is the Div 5 American 4th place team, and Inc. Illuminatis is the Div 5 World 2nd place team. So we got a little cross the Atlantic Ocean battle here between two Div 4 teams that finished roughly similar with each other, and Access Denied represented North America well by getting the win 2-1. Summerzeit. This is the team name you cannot pronounce, but I think they say you can just go with Sommerzeit, and get away with it. They got a statement win here against the Wiggly Phantoms 2-1. I love the Wigglies. The Wiggly ones. You guys know they're one of my favorite teams of all time. Credit where credit is due here. This is a good win for Sommerzeit. This is a really good win for Sommerzeit. A really quality win. So I had to point it out. Sorry, Phantoms. I know you guys like to make memes of me drinking your smoothies or whatever, but nice win by Sommerzeit. Got to point it out. Anarchy. I can't say one good thing about Citrus without taking one thing away from them. Anarchy got a nice win from them. I believe the only loss Citrus took on Saturday, 2-1. Anarchy, they made 2 alpha brackets in a row, and they haven't done particularly well. But when you beat a team like Citrus, it shows that you're more than capable of doing really well in alpha bracket because you're playing alpha bracket level teams and beating them. The problem with Saturday versus Sunday is on Sunday, you have to beat 5 alpha bracket teams minimum, whereas on Saturday, you might only have to beat 1 or 2 or maybe 0 to make alpha bracket. So that's why it's a little bit bump up in difficulty on Sunday over Saturday, and why you should never get too hyped about how good you do on Saturday. Sunday is a little bit more difficult. Regardless, Anarchy got a good win against Citrus here. Wanted to point that out. Mahi Monsoon got a 3-0 sweep over Vaporwave. Why am I pointing this out? It's an LSL Championship rematch. Arguably one of the matches of the year would be that LSL Championship, the most recent one, where Vaporwave and Mahi Monsoon went to a decisive Game 7 with a very close Game 7. I believe it was in Tower Control Art Academy, where a K-Gal just got a key double or triple that ultimately turned the tournament into their favor at the very end there. Have a rematch here. Mahi getting the win 3-0. Not as competitive as last time. I wanted to put this one on stream, but I was like, we need to highlight new teams, not just put Mahi on every single time that they play in this tournament. And we end up putting them on round 6 anyways. Lumistars got a 2-1 win over Broken Controller Gaming. Lumistars being the Div 8 America champion that just completely destroyed Div 8 America. And we didn't know how good they actually were, though. And then they come into this bracket and play Broken Controller Gaming, a middle-of-the-pack Div 6 team when they played in Ludi, but a really strong team in low ink, a team that's getting progressively better in every low ink that they play in. This was a measuring stick for Lumistars to see where they actually fit in the grand scheme of things, and they get a nice win here. Legato got a 2-1 win over Rising Hope. Legato ended up being in Gamma Bracket, and Rising Hope ended up being in Beta Bracket. You guys know I think highly of Rising Hope, even though they've been stuck in Beta Bracket the last couple of months. This is a good quality win for Legato, even though they still stuck in Gamma Bracket. So technically an upset and a good win for their resume going forward. Vaporwave, I said they lost to Mahi 3-0. How about a good win that they got? A 2-1 win over Mission Instinct. Yet another rematch for Vaporwave. They played in April on stream, and Mission Instinct got the win 2-1. Vaporwave now an opportunity to get a grudge match win against them, and did it. 2-1 win this time for Vaporwave. Ooh, we got a little bit of a back and forth rivalry growing here. We'll be keeping an eye on Vaporwave and Mission Instinct going forward. Lastly, Ink Vaders got a 2-1 win over Power Inc. And this is significant because the Ink Vaders, this is one of the best quality wins they've gotten in a while. And Power Inc. is slowly becoming, or I shouldn't say slowly, quickly becoming a team that when you beat them, it becomes a pretty significant thing. Power Inc. 1 beta bracket. We're going to be talking about them more later. So Ink Vader's getting the win against them on Swiss Saturday is becomes much more spicy after you see what Power Inc. has become over the course of this weekend. Winners from Swiss stage. Let's start off with the Ink Strike Inklings, who went 4-2, getting key wins against Yosemite and CIA, making their return trip to Alpha Bracket. The question is going to be, are they going to stay in Alpha Bracket going forward? I hope that they are. I feel like they are a team that should be staying in Alpha Bracket, but this is the first month they finally cracked the glass ceiling and got back into Alpha Bracket. And it's a result of how well they played on Saturday. The team with the highest opponent win percentage? How about our Australian friends down under, Nerve, who got, and this isn't the highest ever, but it's pretty doggone high, 72.2% opponent win percentage. They went 4-2. They got key wins against Blue Moon and Outcast Ninjas, but that is a crazy high number for your opponent win percentage. It looks really weird seeing a number that high. I think Port Raccoon had the highest. I think theirs was like in the 80s, like back in like September or something of 2020. But still, the highest one this month goes to Nerve, who did make Alpha Bracket and did well in Alpha Bracket. Project Slide went 5-1 in this tournament with key wins over Unlimited Woomy United, Luma Stars, Anarchy, and Ink Bashers. This was a new team made up of low Ink veterans, and they made Alpha Brackets off of it. So maybe we'll see more Project Slide. They have the word project in their name, so maybe I'm to assume this is a project, whatever the hell that means. But regardless, for this tournament right here, Project Slide did really well. Broken Controller Gaming got 10th place in their group, going 4-2 with key wins over Enigma, Legato, and the Wiggly Phantoms, making it beta bracket with how well they played in there. I believe I'll be talking more about them later in beta bracket. I think they did really good. I wrote this one right before we started, but good win for a good Saturday, at least, for Broken Controller Gaming. Ink Eye. I said Ink Eye. This would be a month where they proved if last month was a fluke or if this is the new standard. It's the new standard. They went 4-2 with key wins against Surf and Turf and Dark Rain. They went. That's the other team. The teams Ink Eye beat were Vaporwave and Useless Charger Weekend. Now they didn't play Sunday, because they played one of their players played in the Midpoint Draft Cup instead of playing in beta bracket, and one of them posted, "I'm subbing for anybody because my Slayer teammate is playing a draft," like a very passive aggressive, like, I can't believe my teammate's playing in the Midpoint Draft Cup. But regardless, that doesn't take away from how good Ink Eye played on Saturday, going 4-2 for 2 months in a row. I see you, Ink Eye. Splat Goons went 4-2, and this is the team that beat Surf and Turf and Dark Rain. Splat Goons went 3-3 last month and made Gamma Bracket. This month going 4-2 and bumping themselves up to Alpha Bracket. So a nice bump up increase for Splat Goons. Easily a winner from this past Saturday. Anarchy, I see you going 5-1 with key wins against Tinta Shrimp Tacos, the Fighting Oranges and Citrus, making their second consecutive Alpha Bracket. Anarchy is being consistent. You like to see that, especially out of new teams coming in here. 2 months in a row making Alpha Bracket. 5-1 this time around. A dominant Saturday for them. Pixel Hearts played in their first low ink that I could find, going 3-3 with key wins against Squid Moon Shredders and Ink Bashers. Qualifying for Gamma in their first low ink and beating a team like Ink Bashers, kind of like Power Inc. Beating Ink Bashers is a notable win to get here as well. So Pixel Hearts, attaboy. Nicely done. Speaking of Tinta Shrimp Tacos, who lost to Anarchy, they still found a way to get 4 wins, key wins coming against Unlimited Woomy United, making beta brackets. This is a team, Tinta Shrimp Tacos went 2-3 in Div 6. of Ludi, and they ended up coming in here and making Beta Bracket going 4-2 in this low ink. 10 Strip Tacos, easily a very good low ink for them. Ink Vaders went 3-3. I pointed out that they got a key win against Power Inc., but they also beat Reticent. Going 3-3, you don't typically have crazy high opponent win percentages. These guys had a 61.1% opponent win percentage. So they played a tough schedule and still found a way to make Beta Bracket with the schedule that was fed to them. So very good for Ink Vaders there. Nice one I wanted to point out for sure. The biggest winner, easily the biggest winner of this Saturday's low ink, you got to go with the Pirates here. Shiver Me Inklings going 6-0 with key wins. Look at the teams that they beat here in their 6-0 run. Dark Rain, Fugatsu Angels, Nerve, Sirius, and Yosemite. 4 alpha bracket teams and a beta bracket team they straight up beat. They got fed. Their opponent win percentage wasn't as high as Nerves at 72.2%. But they still got fed arguably the tougher schedule and beat every single one of them. Wow. The Buccaneers really had a statement low ink. I think the low level rankings called them dangerous. Yes. The Shiver Me Inklings have gone from being one of those cute teams with a funny name to being, oh, okay, I see you now. So we'll be keeping an eye on the Pirates going forward, but easily a statement Saturday from them. But Saturday, they don't hand out trophies on Saturday. A lot of people seem to act like they've won something after the end of Saturday. You don't. Sunday is where the hardware starts being divvied out. You got to show up on both days. So let's take a look at who did what on Sunday. What? What was this? The stream cut out at some point. Oh, no, this is something else. Hold on, what is this? I see, Danny Boy posted something in my Discord server. Breaking news: Nintendo of America prepared for an ink overload. The Splatoon 2 Speed Ladder 2021 tournament is near. Each of 4 weekends, starting on July the 10th, will highlight one of the 4 modes. The top 4 teams each day will win some fresh prizes. What? Okay, so Nintendo of America is having a new tournament. Nintendo of America is coming back. We didn't scare them off with the Squid House thing, and they're running another tournament. Each weekend, a speed ladder each weekend, just off of each individual mode. Well, I hope you weren't planning on hosting a tournament at all during the month of July, because Nintendo just took that away from you. Oh, no. Wow. US only, no Canada. Well, okay. Regardless, okay, so now we know what the next episode of the Popcast is going to be. Wow. Regardless, let's get back on track here because I'm going to run out of time. What the hell, Nintendo? Okay, Gamma brackets. And we're going to switch to the screen here so that we can actually look at the bracket. Do I have this set up? Yeah. Here we go. So we're going to look at each bracket. Normally I go through and highlight the matches of note. In Gamma bracket, there's nothing. I mean, look at all this. It was all 3-0-3-1s. I mean, all these matches seem pretty straightforward. Intimidation Factor and Traveling Inkstorm in C2 was the only match that actually went the distance to a Game 5 in the loser side. I mean, you got some slightly interesting things here, but no real matches of note that I wanted to talk about specifically. The one thing that I do want to talk about is the winners from each bracket. The Gamma bracket winners, I'm going to go with Intimidation Factor, if you see what they did here. I just talked about they survived Traveling Inkstorm 3-2, Surf and Turf 3-1, and then on top of that, after losing to Uwu, they ended up beating Mission Instinct, taking 4th place in this tournament. Intimidation Factor, I don't know a whole heck a lot about these guys. I should have done more research looking into them beforehand, but they deserve some recognition here, and we'll be keeping an eye on what they do next month if they sign up again for the next low ink. Yoru, the team that was Rainbow Blossom last month, is now coming back in this month with a new change. I believe Yoru is how this is pronounced. They had a pretty good tournament here. They made beta bracket last month, but still, bumping down a bracket isn't a bad thing, especially if you pop off and show that you are a little, if you show that it might be a fluke that you're in this bracket. And I think they might have shown that. A 3-1 win over Legato before losing to the team that ultimately won the entire bracket here. And then in losers bracket, started going on a run. You guys know I love when teams go on runs in losers bracket. Zomerzite 2-0, Surf and Turf 2-0, Enigma 2-1, Intimidation Factor 2-0 before getting swept by the unstoppable Ink Bashers. So Yoru taking 3rd place in this one. Last but certainly not least, I want to give a winner roll out to Enigma, who got a couple wins here in winners bracket, sweeping Famada, sweeping Mission Instinct, losing to Ink Bashers, who seem unstoppable, and then losing to Yoru. But I'm giving a winner roll here to Enigma because they are coming across as consistent. They're a Gamma Beta bracket level team, but they are at least being consistent in making some spots. A lot of teams would say, man, I would love to at least know that I'm going to qualify for Gamma or Beta bracket every time I sign up. Enigma knows they can do that. Unfortunately, not a lot of other teams can say that. So a winner roll here for Enigma, showing up and showing out, getting a nice couple of sweeps here. Mission Instinct being a strong team, that's a good win for anybody to get. Arguably, you could have gave them a winner roll here, but I feel like Mission Instinct's expectations for themselves are be a little bit higher than Gamma bracket, because they're definitely an alpha bracket contender for sure when they sign up. For the two teams that made grand finals here in Gamma bracket, Unlimited Woomy United beating Ink Bashers 4-2, not having to force a bracket reset right there. What can I say about these two teams for Uwu? I think they've been in, beta bracket 2 months in a row now. I know they were at least in there last month. And this is what you like to see. When a team gets bumped down a bracket, they show, hey, we're too good for this. And they showed that. Look, nobody even touched Uwu all day long. They lost 1 game to Yoru, 1 game to Intimidation Factor, and then 2 to Ink Bashers. That's it. Everybody else fell to them pretty dominantly. And in fact, they already swept the Ink Bashers earlier. So they 7-2 against the Ink Bashers for here. So is it fun that they got stuck down in Gamma bracket? No. But this is what you want to see from a team that gets put down a bracket. They prove that they're too good for it. For Ink Bashers, man, these guys said 2 months ago, we want more recognition. And ever since then, they do something that demands more recognition here. Finishing in 2nd place is a good accomplishment for Ink Bashers. And look at the route that they took to get here. Beating Last Ditch Effort, Inkcraft Cult, sweeping Enigma, and then sweeping Yoru in the losers finals. And then gave a couple of good games to Unlimited Woomy United. But Ink Bashers continue to impress in every tournament that they play in. I see you. Uwu's a little bit better, though. Moving on down to the Power Inc. bracket, a.k.a. Beta. A couple of matches of note that I do want to point out here. First off, Ink Vaders versus Broken Controller Gaming 3-2. We're going to talk about... Actually, I got to look at this right now. They did get a couple of wins, but Broken Controller Gaming is continuing to be one of these better teams. They did win a Gamma bracket a couple of months ago, and this is another kind of quality win. We talked about Ink Vaders beating Power Inc., winning 3-3 with a high opponent win percentage, beating Broken Controller Gaming here as well. This could be a lot. There's a lot of good things here for the Ink Vaders to build off of. I don't think they're going to get back to being that alpha bracket team that they used to be like a year and a half ago, alpha just this tournament. But this is a turning the corner kind of tournament for Ink Vaders, and a 3-2 win against Broken Controller Gaming helps highlight that for sure. Outcast Ninjas got a 3-2 win over Ink Eye. Actually, wait a minute. Did Inkai actually play in this tournament, or did they just need a sub? Actually, I think they might have needed a sub. They weren't requesting a sub. So I don't know if this was the actual Inkai roster or not, because somebody was playing in the Midpoint Draft Cup. Regardless, this is still a good loss for Inkai against a team that made Alpha Bracket last month. And ultimately a good set. A good win for Outcast Ninjas, but not a bad loss for Inkai here either. The other thing I want to point out here, of course, the number 1 seed is always cursed to some extent or another. They're playing a team, the number 16 seed. OK Woomer was an Alpha Bracket team last month. This is not a traditional number 16 seed that you would see. This is a really strong team that they had to go up against, and they got swept by them 3-0. OK Woomer getting the win there. That's not Team Renegade's fault. They just got played with a really difficult. They just got played against a really difficult team that they had to go up against. Hey, thank you for the raid, Fish, and welcome everybody into the Popcast. If you follow, oh gosh, I might need to turn that audio off. I appreciate the follows, but this might get a little crazy with all the fish folk that just got brought in here. We're recapping Low Ink. I traditionally do a podcast talking about competitive Splatoon. You might want to go back and check the VOD if there's some other stuff that you missed back here as well. But we're going to keep moving on. And thank you for all the people following going forward. Winners from the beta bracket side of things. I got 3 for you. First off, okay, how do I look? I love the follows. Maybe if I just turn that, maybe that'll help. Unless it doesn't. Who knows? But appreciate the follows anyways. Winners from beta bracket. I'm going with ITAP here. And look, I know ITAP was talking about, oh, well, what do we need to do to improve? I don't know if ITAP feels good about how they played in this tournament or not. I don't. But how we perceive ITAP doing good here is just fine. I mean, look what they did. 3-0 to Riptide. Yes, a close 3-2 loss to Blue Moon. But then they went in losers bracket, beat the number 1 seed 2-0, Broken Controller Gaming 2-0, Untitled Duck Crew, a really strong team, beating the Quack Attack 2-1, and then lost to a former Alpha Bracket team, an OK Woomer. Yes, ITAP, I know their expectations are probably higher. This is a good tournament result for them. Like a Gamma Bracket team last month, coming into beta this month, and doing really well, taking 4th place here. I know they won beta bracket like 8-10 months ago or something like that. This is still a good tournament for ITAP. They should be proud of this. OK Woomer. We got to give a little credit to OK Woomer here, don't we? Of course, the number 16 seed, even though they're an Alpha Bracket team in the past. Sweeping Team Renegade, losing to Power Inc., who won the whole tournament. And then going into losers bracket and tearing that apart. 2-0 Riptide, 2-0 Colorful, 2-0 Blue Moon, 2-0 ITAP, and then barely losing to Mahi Monsoon, 3-1 in losers finals here. This is now, OK Woomer made Alpha Bracket last month, and we didn't get to see a crazy amount of good things from them in that Alpha Bracket, which is fine. Because they come down here to beta and prove that they're still an Alpha Bracket level team. Just falling a little bit short against Mahi Monsoon. The last team I want to give a winner's role here is Blue Moon. Not to be confused with A, the alcoholic drink, which I particularly like, or B, the Red Sun team, which is the polar opposite of what Blue Moon is. But they had a good tournament here. 3-2 against Vaporwave, 3-2 ITAP, losing to Mahi, and then ultimately losing to OK Woomer. But Blue Moon last month, if I can find this right here, they went 2-4 last month. And they changed that by coming around here and making beta brackets, I believe going 4-2 because of the seed they got, and then beating some very notable teams. So this is a good, huge step forward for Blue Moon. Again, the question is going to be, is this the standard going forward? We'll see next year or next month out of that. The grand finals of this tournament for the beta bracket, as far as that's concerned, Mahi Monsoon getting a rematch against Power Inc. They forced a bracket reset against them, and then Power Inc. held on to get the win 4-2 in the bracket reset. What does this mean for both teams going forward? Hey, similar to ITAP, this is a good result for Mahi. I don't think Mahi has ever made Alpha Bracket, which is fine. You don't have to make Alpha Bracket every month. They had their opportunity to make it. They were on stream, and they didn't get that win in Game 3. I forget who they were playing against specifically. But still, Mahi might be one of the teams that most of the lower level teams in Low Ink have a target on. We had the pre-show people coming in. About 50% of the people said they wanted to play Mahi. And, well, that's the pressure they have to deal with. But coming into this beta bracket and getting second place is a good result for them. And I think it's some momentum that they use to carry going forward. But you talk about a team that has a crazy amount of momentum behind them right now. What is going on with Power Inc? Look what they did here in this tournament as the number 9 seed. 3-1 the Tacos, 3-1 OK Woomer, 3-1 Quack Attack, 3-1 Mahi, and then ended up beating them again in winners in the bracket reset. What is going on with Power Inc here? They swept on Crack 5-0, and I didn't believe that was legit in the semifinals of Div 7. Apparently, ever since then, they have been destroying everybody they've been playing against. And it's so crazy. These guys were the Div 7 runner-up. Div 7 runner-up should not equal beta bracket champions. It shouldn't. And this team, when they played in Little Squid League 12 back in April the 10th, 2 months ago, here's what they did. They tied in 8th place in Top Cut. How do you do that? And then 2 months later, you're beating the team that won that tournament. Mahi won that tournament, and they're beating them here in beta bracket. Something happened to Power Inc. Like somebody like got struck by lightning or got bit by a radioactive spider or something. Because Power Inc. has turned the corner, and they've become a monster overnight. Very scary here. Congratulations, Power Inc. Are they a Low Ink contender from now on? I guess we got to put them up there, don't we? Before we get to the interview with the deep fried Octolings, we're going to move on and mow down this alpha bracket really quickly. A couple of matches of note that I want to point out here. The question was, how was Shiver Me Inklings going to respond to being in their first alpha bracket after going 6-0 on Sunday? They played a team called Ultimate Hopstaker, Ultimate Hopstaker, and got 3-0'd by them. Ooh, number 1 seed curse there. Going undefeated on Sunday or Saturday never really works in your favor there. Wanted to point that out. Syntopia played Leg 3-2. Leg, not sure who they are, but they made their first alpha bracket. Syntopia made alpha bracket last month and did decently well. I would have put Syntopia in my top 10. The problem was they didn't sign up by the time I did it. And in fact, I don't think they signed up till like late Friday. I think they were one of the last few teams to actually sign up for this tournament. They showed up here and held off Leg and said, hey, we're more experienced in this alpha bracket. Congratulations on making your first one. We got this from here, though. Lastly, I do want to point out this match, and I know the Oranges are not going to be thrilled about it, but I got to. The Angels got the 2-1 win over Citrus. I really wanted to put this one on stream. It just got to grand finals or winners finals just ended too late, and they're already in their set, and we didn't want to interrupt their set. We wanted them to play this one out, but these were the teams I had personally, my number 1 and number 2 teams. It's just a matter of time before Citrus wins this one. We all know that. But we got a little bit of a rivalry brewing between these two teams. I believe this is the third time in the past 3 months that these guys have played against each other. If they didn't play last month, I know they played twice in April. But the Angels getting the better end of Citrus here, 2-1, and Angels kind of moving on because of that. Now look, is it win? It seems like with the Oranges, it's win this tournament or it's a bust. And that sucks. I understand that mentality. Destiny Troops played that mentality in SAC, and we never won it, and it sucked. But when you look back at it and you think, as long as you're being consistent, you're going to win this at some point. Citrus is being consistent. They got their first win in winners bracket. They just ran into the wrong team in Sirius, without any disconnect issues in that set. And then, just tore through losers bracket until running into just another one of these monsters is going really well here. So Citrus lost his third and second place team. That's not a bad tournament for them. And I sound like a Citrus apologist right now. I understand that, but I wanted to point that out. It's a good tournament for them. It really is. We shouldn't just take credit away from that. Winners from Alpha Bracket will be Nerve, our friends from Australia, who 3-0'd Anarchy, 3-0'd Ultimate Hop Stalker before losing to Sirius, and then going into Losers Bracket and tearing up Syntopia before losing to the Fugatsu Angels. The Angels stealing one from them at the end of that Rainmaker Snapper Canal game. Good first Alpha Bracket appearance for Nerve, and showed up and showed out, taking fourth place here. Syntopia deserves a little bit of credit as well. I talked about how they beat Leg before losing to the Deep Fried Octolings, and then beating Project Slide, Shiver Me Inklings before losing to Nerve themselves, knocking the number 1 seed Shiver Me Inklings out of the tournament on Sunday. In the team, I do want to give a definite winner roll to is the Ultimate Hop Staker, who 3-0'd Shiver Me Inklings before losing to Nerve, and then got a nice win against Access Denied here before losing to Citrus in Losers Bracket. Who is Ultimate Hop Stalker, Hope Staker, whoever these guys are? It's a new team made up of a mix of low-ink veterans from Strong Pigeons and Falling Ink. So I don't know if it's a pickup, because I hope Fallen Ink is still a thing. It would be nice to see Fallen Ink play in this tournament. But still, if this was a pickup, then this was the good pickup team of this month's tournament. So a nice win there as well. What happened in grand finals? We already kind of talked about it, but it's been enough talking from me. Let's talk to the people that actually played in this tournament and get their thoughts as to what happened. So now, welcome in to the Popcast, the player for the Deep Fried, excuse me, the Deep Fried Octolings, and everyone said I mispronounced your name, so I'm going to take a stab at it right now. Kalana.
Yep, no, that's how I go. I haven't pronounced.
There we go. So welcome in, Kalana, the Charger/Squeezer player for
Yep.
the Deep Fried Octolings. First off, welcome in and congratulations on winning Low Ink.
Yep. Thank you.
How does it feel to be a Low Ink champion?
Um, it's really nice for us. It's been a year since the team started playing in Lowings, and we're just happy to have won it and be done with it.
How?
Uh,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't have anything more to add.
Okay, fair enough. So can you describe what it felt like to play in that grand finals with all of the issues that were involved in it?
In the moment, we were all just happy to even be in grand finals. Honestly, going into game four losers finals, where we were down 1-2, our expectation at that point was just that was probably going to be it, because we hadn't played with Danny Boy at all before. We played with him on Saturday. Bolt hadn't played with him at all. So we really weren't too confident on our coordination or anything. We just kind of had to go with it and hope we could win. By the time we'd made it to grand finals, we were happy to just be there. And in the moment, the stress, like, we felt it, but we were just, you know, sort of, enjoying it, just being happy to be able to play even.
Could you so broke DC twice in losers finals.
Yeah.
What was the decision that led to bringing in Danny Boys this up? Was it just we
Uh,
don't feel confident that Broke is going to make it through, or
After having broke DC a second time, he didn't feel confident that his connection was going to work for the time being, and Danny was available. He was available. He had already said, like, yeah, I can play. Uh, so for us, it was just having this option of it's like, realistically, we can't be confident that Broke's connection will remain stable enough to not disconnect. So we opted to go with Danny, and it just worked out for us.
What what happened to Danny Boy's internet in that in
Uh,
that in the bracket reset, and what led to the decision of, well, let's bring in Broke instead of trying to see if Danny can fix it out?
so I think after after having Danny disconnect on the game five humpback zones, we were like at that point, Danny didn't feel confident in his connection, and Broke felt fairly confident that his was actually fine. Um, so we opted to have Broke play. Uh, just off that, the couple other things is we know that that group of the four of us, we have more experience playing together, and we've had really good results on Inkblot TC before. So we thought that would be just a good choice there. And it was also, again, just Broke said his connection. He thought his connection was fine. Danny didn't. So we went with what we had.
And yeah, it ended up working out. I mean, it
Yeah.
when I was commentating it, I was like, wow, this is probably really scary for the deep fried octolings to go into
Uh,
this game 6 with somebody who, like, was Broke ready to go, or was it just like
yeah,
a,
we had Broke. We just made him sit in the training room for about an hour and he was
oh,
just sort of
okay.
chilling there. So he'd been doing stuff, staying warm,
Okay,
and then
good.
watching the stream. Yeah.
Um so how does it, a lot of people were talking about their thoughts on how the match ended, how the tournament ended. Can you kind of walk us through what the deep fried Octolings thoughts are on how the grand finals unfolded and ultimately ended?
Um, so this grand finals was definitely very chaotic, very scuffed. Wasn't necessarily the most satisfying win, if that's reasonable to say.
Um, what
We
was?
were,
Oh, go on, go on.
and say we were happy to have, like, we're just happy to have won. Said the team started playing Lowings a year ago. We've been putting in a lot of work, and I feel like after getting through losers finals, and doing well, at least in the start of both of the grand final sets, uh, we were just happy to come out with the win. Definitely feel bad for Sirius with all the disconnect issues, and but at the end of the day, we're just taking it as we've won. That's really what matters, and we're just going to be happy about it and move on.
Yeah, as you should, because you did win. You, at the
Yeah,
end of the day, you guys showed up at the right times, and the internet issues for the other team just didn't. That's not your fault at all.
yeah.
You talked about you guys were just excited to survive losers finals and make it to grand finals, but at what point over the weekend did you personally think, or did it dawn on you that, oh, we will win this tournament? Like, was it a
Uh,
point before the tournament started, or did it happen over the course of the actual tournament?
we thought we had a chance to win the tournament just going into it. We had good results in Div 5. We did well back in Squid Junction 7, I believe, a few weeks ago. We were just feeling pretty good
Mm.
about our performance, but I didn't really know that we were going to win until we got the lead on that Inkblot Tower game. Like, even after the disconnect, we still weren't sure. At least I still wasn't sure that we could win, given how the Snapper Clams game had gone earlier.
Hmm.
So it was really we need to have the lead at the end of that game to feel comfortable that yes, we were going to win.
So there you go. When you look back on this low ink, what is the one moment that will always pop up in your head when you think about it?
Uh, if anything, I think it would probably be game five of losers finals where we had the Albacore Zones game that went managed to end it really quickly and it's just sort of coming back from all the disconnect issues and pulling out like clutch win, I guess, for lack of a better term. It was just really nice to like, oh, we're going to grand finals now, despite having all these connection issues and subbing in. I think that's probably more memorable even than winning the tournament or getting to like more grand finals, just because of all the disconnect issues that happened there.
Yeah, you guys winning that game five in the fashion that you did was so shocking because that game four, that Rainmaker to Albacore game that you guys won, it was like you guys basically won in the final seconds off of just that one
Yeah,
push. When the mindset was, think back to that game four when the
yeah.
Angels get that huge lead in the beginning. Did you ever think like, oh, this is it, or did you still have that thought of like, well, we can still win this one?
Uh, well, it's Rainmaker. Um, so we all still felt confident that yeah, we can get this back. We know how to coordinate a push. We get one wipe on them, and we can definitely get lead back. And we managed to pull it off and do it. I don't think for us there was for us at that point we had already felt really happy with our performance in Alpha, seeing as that we've never actually had a single win in the Alpha bracket before playing this weekend. So by that point we were just happy with our performance, and so at least for losers finals there wasn't that much stress. Uh, we just wanted to try and win, and so we put forth our best effort, and we ended up coming out on top.
So you guys have won Low Ink. You are now officially you're officially banned from Low Ink.
Yep.
So what's next for the deep fried octolings? What's the next step here?
So we've kind of discussed, and I think over the summer our goal is to, like by the end of the summer, be at a Div 3 level at least. Probably sort of our next milestone goal will be getting banned from SAC. Getting Div 3 and Louis, I think, are sort of our biggest focuses for the moment, since Lowink was sort of the big thing for us before now. We're just hoping to grind out those mid-level tournaments and get some scrims practice and do some VOD reviews, and hope it goes well.
What's the plan to do with the prize money?
I think we're going to put it into an art commission for the team,
Mm.
since we've kind of all wanted to get like a team banner with our Inklings, and just haven't really bothered to put in the cash for that.
You know, that's I've had Low Ink champions one before, and I always ask them that question. They always say the same thing. It seems just like just making your own kind of trophy with the money that you get, and it's something that you can kind of use and celebrate with. So that's
Yeah,
cool that you guys are going with that kind of tradition. Once again, congratulations on winning the tournaments. I hope you guys feel good about what happened. So that you feel like you outright earned it, because you guys definitely did. You guys played really
yeah,
well, and congratulations once again.
yeah. I
And
feel like our losers finals at least earned us having some good performance in brands, and again, disconnects are unfortunate, but just what happened happened, and we move on from it.
hey, never apologize for winning. They don't give out trophies for with asterisks on them at Low Ink. So hey, congratulations again, and good luck to you guys down the road.
Thank you.
And that was Kalana of the Deep Fried Octolinks. It's interesting. He said, the mentality of going into a grand finals. There's two ways you can look at it. You can either just be happy just to be there, or you can go in with the mindset of, okay, this is where we're supposed to be. This is where the tournament actually starts. Normally, when you go in with a team of, oh, we're just happy to be here, normally you don't see that team win, because the other team they're playing against is like, okay, we deserve to win this tournament, so we're gonna just give it their best effort. But a team going, it seemed like the Deep Fried Ocklings went into grand finals with no pressure on them at all. They were just happy to get out of there. It's at least what I'm hearing. Happy to get out of losers finals. At least that's what I got out of that interview. So that was good to hear, and that probably translated into why they went 3-0 to start the bracket, and then 3-0 to start the bracket reset. So, yeah, once again, congratulations, Deep Fried Octolings. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you, Fish, for rating. That was kind of I appreciate people rating and following. It's just always kind of an awkward time in the podcast for it to happen. I don't want to like break my concentration to acknowledge too many things. But Fish rating, that was a pretty massive rate. So thank you if you're still around, or if anybody from the Fish crew is still around. Send my thanks his way. Next, I didn't know what I was going to talk about on the next episode of the podcast. I think I know now. We're going to talk about this Nintendo thing. I'm already thinking in my head how I want to go through it. But we'll talk about the Nintendo thing next week on the podcast. If you would like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me. Socials below. Twitter at Mr_Popgun. Discord Popgun, #5882. YouTube at 25Popgun. Twitch at Popgun25. Anchor.fm/Popgun for those of you listening on Spotify. Let's raid Kiki. Make sure you guys keep wearing your masks. Get vaccinated. Stay healthy. If you made it to this episode of the podcast, you have not died yet. Try to go to the next episode of the podcast without dying. Let's have a continued streak of not dying IRL and try to come back next week. That's your goal.